You know, lately it's become really popular to have these soft felt pianos, a really intimate sound when you feel like you're almost inside the piano. But what about guitars? Well, now there is one. Hi there, this is Sam with Second Tier Sound. Really nice to see you here. So you probably heard of Piano Book. Now, if you haven't, you really have to go and check this out as soon as you've watched this video. But go to pianobook.co.uk and you will find a plethora of mostly free, fantastic virtual instruments made by passionate musicians and indie developers. Now, one of these paid instruments is the MG Soft nylon guitar made by Georgiades, and it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. Let's just listen to what it sounds immediately. And just full disclosure, this song I did not make. It's a MIDI file that I stole from Mike and added a few of my own instruments, but hopefully it will give you great insight into what this thing can do. This instrument is just ready to go immediately. If you have a less sensitive velocity on your keyboard, most notes will sound like this. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're able to change the sensitivity, you will get more sort of ghost notes and sounds that weren't there before, which can create really beautiful sounds. Now, the auto script that is on right now makes sure that you sound as much as possible as a real guitarist, meaning that you use the instrument correctly. As you might know, the guitar only has 6 strings, and that means it has quite a few limitations on voicing. And also, one note is on several places on a guitar, and you need to know these positions because you get different sounds out of the guitar that way. And if I play an A open string here, I get that sound. But if I go higher up in the position, I get a different sound. I hope you heard that. It's a rounder and sort of softer sound. And a good guitarist knows where to position their hand in order to get those different sounds. If they have the auto script on, it will make sure that it will place your hand, so to speak, on the correct place depending on the chords and the melody that you play. And it works really well, and I really love this because I'm not a guitarist, so I don't know how to do all this. So the auto script will basically do everything for you, and you can just play and it sounds nicely. And I recommend you start doing that. If you compose something, start with auto. It will probably work. You probably don't have to do anything more. But if you go to manual, you have a little bit more power. You see all these colors. They exist in auto as well, but they don't work exactly the same. If you're in manual, it means that any of these groups, blue, purple, you cannot play any of these notes within a group at the same time. Let's say, if I play this note here, I can obviously play the other one, but none of those can be played at the same time. I'll try these two. Doesn't work. Because that's how a guitar works, right? If you look at the string here, They're on the same string, so obviously a real guitarist couldn't play those notes at the same time. If you're in audio, it actually helps you a bit. You can play thirds, so it's nicer to you. It's not realistic, but it works pretty well. But in manual, it actually will be that way. If you come up with a song and then you want to make sure a real guitarist can play it, you can make sure that the positions are realistic so a guitarist can do it, and it also sounds better. You can also then change your positions down here depending what sound you want. Because if you have a lower position down here, you will get a darker sound in general. And if you have a higher position, you will get a softer sound. So you can decide much more what you want. Now, free is basically you can do what the hell you want. Now, it's not very realistic, but it sounds really good. And you can always create a piece and the guitarist will say, "How do you play this?" The free is great for us keyboard players. And if you don't want to be completely realistic, obviously. And that's pretty much it. Well, actually, it has 3 key switches as well. And they are here. This one makes a slide if you hold it in. Or a chord. And this one here adds a little slap on the string. So like you can do... And then also have a green button down here that shows you the open strings. Not only that, you can hit them, obviously. This is actually a little bit more advanced, but a lot of guitarists, they know in that particular chord, it might be an open string. So you can always change then with this key switch and change to the open string so you get a specific sound that the guitarist is after. Or you can also have pedal notes. In general, I don't use it because I don't have that knowledge, but maybe if I work a piece out and I want to change for certain things, it could be interesting. But I think in a way that if you know this thing, you don't need this guitar unless you really love the sound. So let's talk about what the levels in the tuning are. The levels is straightforward. You can change the volume and reverb and all that stuff. You can also put in a delay here. And this can be particularly fun if you add this pan FX, which randomly moves the panning back and forth. Then you can also change the guitar width, and then you can change the string attack. So if you want a little bit softer sound, or maybe put CC automation here so you can change it while you play if you want a little bit different sound. Then fret noise level, and this pedal means that if it's on, I will get fret noise when I use the pedal. Why would I want to take this off? Well, if, for example, I use the manual mode and I use these key switches, they squeak also. So maybe if I have the pedal and I use this, then there will be a lot of extra squeezes, or squeaks rather. So I will remove this one and I get the squeaks here. I can also, with these, change and add manually my own squeaks. And that's pretty much it there. And then we have tuning, which is very interesting. But I think in general, this will be beneficial if you have some knowledge of how a guitar works. Because in general, when you change these things, it won't really affect how you play on the keyboard that much. I mean, obviously, if you drop the D, which means that the E string now becomes a D string, you can play lower. And you can also do that with the G. Well, the A string becomes G, so it's also lower. But in terms of just playing on the keyboard, it won't really change much unless you know how to use open strings. But you can also tune the whole guitar to a certain system, or you can do an open major chord and an open minor chord, or you can just drag and make your own tune here. So I really like that it's there, and you really can create some new sounds if you know what you're doing. There's one more thing I wanted to show you, and that is that Mike has also created a bunch of MIDI files that you can use. If you weren't aware of this, I will give you the download link in the description. You get a bunch of folders that are divided into patterns and pieces. You get acoustic, classical, Latin jazz, and percussive. And it's really nice. You go in there, for example, maybe you want to check out a pattern here that you need, and you get all the MIDI files for those patterns. And then you also get a little sample so you know what it sounds like. and so on. And then you also get something that's called pieces, which is sort of a starter to a song, a few chords, a few ideas that you can use. And these are just fantastic because they're curated by a real guitarist who know what they're doing. You get the expertise of the right positions, how to play the chords, what notes to use and all that. So I really like this. And in fact, I would love it if this could be included in the GUI itself. I talked to Mike about it and he said maybe a future update or maybe a future instrument. So anyway, it's quite easy to use. You just drag in the MIDI file. I do want to show you something though that happened in my DAW. And I know this is probably something with the translation. Mike is using Logic and I'm using Cubase and it works. You see, it got in there, but it didn't happen where I placed it. And sometimes the MIDI file actually ends up way over here instead. Now, it's not a big problem. I just drag it back and then I have to remove this. I don't know what that is, sysx data. I'm assuming in the exporting of MIDI files, Logic does something, and maybe Mike will look at that. So, having tried out some of these MIDI patterns in my DAW, I got really excited and wanted to try something silly. So I went to ChatGPT and created some lyrics and came up with this. Fingers glide across the string, notes are gently spread away. Rhythm soft and smooth and slow, a melody that's sure to go. The sound is sweet and warm and bright, with every chord it takes to fly. And as I play, I close my eyes. So what do I think about this instrument? Well, first I just wanted to mention that I'm not sponsored by Mike and he hasn't told me what to do or anything like that. He contacted me after I reached out to the community and asked if anyone wanted to showcase their instrument on my channel, because I want to show more of the indie scene as well, not just the big guys. Anyway, I grew up with the guitar and I love the sound and I've listened a lot and I know a lot about guitar, but I don't really play it. I don't know how to. I haven't done that. Maybe I will someday. So I love these virtual instruments when I can become a guitarist in a way. I think the sound is really excellent. It's such a small footprint and it probably will work well on any computer. And there's just, you just load it up and you play. You don't have to worry about key switches. Now you can, as I showed you before, but you don't have to. You just play and it works really well. And you don't have to worry about the vibrato control. There is no vibrato at all, but I don't think you need it. In most cases where I've seen vibrato on other virtual instruments, it is kind of not really realistic because it's something they've added in post. And I like this method better. It's just great tone quality and you don't need it with this style. It just works really well. Also, I'm really impressed how dynamic this instrument is. I showed you a little bit, but there's so many dynamic layers here that you feel like you really can get a lot of different textures. But not just that, also depending on where the position is, you get different tone and note qualities. It's not just a guitar sample that is spread out on the keyboard. You really have different qualities and notes, and I really think that is excellent. And also something I really like is that it teaches you how to play. You see on the keyboard where the notes are overlapping or not and what string is being used. So you understand this can be done on a guitar and not on a keyboard. And that's something that most keyboards are not aware of. We can just press any key, right? But you can't do that on a guitar. So it actually teaches me how to use the guitar a little bit more. Not to play it, obviously, but how to voice it correctly so it sounds more realistic. So it's a fantastic recommend. This is seriously, I'm not kidding, one of the best guitar instruments I've seen out there on the market, and also for the price. And then also considering that you get a lot of nice patterns and songs included in this mini pack that I show below where you can go to get that one. So support Mike because this is fantastic and I hope to see more of his instrument in the future. So anyway, that's it for this time. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you can always support me by doing all the stuff that you know, hitting the like, subscribe, and become a patron and all that. And I hope to see you soon in the next video. Until then, take lots of care.